I smell a roast.
So, in keeping with our holiday tradition, this being the show that hits right before Christmas, we are roasting Christmas. Christmas the holiday. Christmas as it was and now as it is. Christmas, we all know the basics of Christmas. The one side is religious, celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. The other side is commercial. Santa Claus, the jolly man with his 8 reindeer, goes around the world to deliver presents to the good boys and girls of the world. We know that. But how did it start? Where did this all come from? Well, like many things, it came from ancient people. Ancient people, and mostly the pagans, but ancient people of Europe and the British Isles and stuff, they celebrated the winter solstice.
I feel like every year I always rave about the mushroom and the sacred cross, talking about how Christmas originated from the Amanita muscaria mushrooms and their rituals to take them on this day.
Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so the Amanita muscaria mushroom is it has psychotropic effects.
Think of the mushroom that Mario eats to get big in Mario Brothers. It looks just like that.
Which is red and white. And
Right.
as you see behind us, the stockings are red and white. And where do you hang those stockings?
Above the fireplace.
Where would you dry out mushrooms back in
Above
the
the
day?
fireplace.
Oh, and little gifts under a tree. And what does that tree support the life of?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms that grow under the tree,
It's all
Jeffrey.
mushrooms, man.
And the idea is that Santa Claus actually originated as this shaman idea. And there's also talk about reindeer loving the Amanita muscaria
Yes.
mushroom. There's actually I talk about this all the time, but you can't talk about it too much because it's so cool. There's actual reported deaths from people being trampled by reindeer.
Yeah, who are high on the mushrooms, right?
Who were high on the mushrooms and peeing in the snowbank.
Yeah.
Because when your body processes it and you pee, it's actually stronger.
Yeah.
So the reindeer smell it, run to it so fast, they kill the people pissing in the snowbanks. And there are recorded deaths of that happening.
It's crazy. And
Christmas, people.
I didn't even put that in the notes because I knew you knew it. And I wanted to bring that
It's
up.
on there. I love
What's
it.
the name of the book again?
I think it's the mushroom and the sacred cross.
I will put it in this show so you guys can see
If
it.
I'm wrong, it's close to that.
It's close to that. I'll find a picture and I'll put it in the show. But anyway, like I said, celebrating the winter solstice was a thing. It was around this time of year because, the days got longer. There was more sunlight happening. So it was a time for celebration. In Scandinavia, actually, one of our favorite areas where the Vikings were in the
Yule,
Norse.
and they burn their Yule log and eat their Yule ham.
They would celebrate Yule. It started on December 21st and then would go through January because in recognition of
Is this a depiction of Yule?
Yes.
This is how they party?
Yes. Well, in celebration of the return of the sun, basically, fathers and sons would bring home these large logs, and then they would set them on fire, and they would then basically have a big feast as these things would burn. And sometimes they would take up to 12 days to burn.
Wow.
This would be a full tree
Yeah.
that they'd bring back. And the Norse believed that each spark from this tree represented a new calf or a new pig that would be born in the next year. So they celebrated this as like the rebirth of their harvest, the rebirth of the next year. It was a celebration of life returning.
You think they all cheered and drank whenever there was a
course.
crackle?
Of course.
That'd be fun, right?
Yeah.
That's a fun way to celebrate.
And another reason why there's so much celebration is during this time.
There was no TV.
Yes, there wasn't. But during this time, during the winter solstice, was a time that many livestock, like cattle, were slaughtered for their meat because you didn't want to feed your entire livestock through the winter because it was hard
Right.
enough to feed yourself.
Yeah.
And this was the first time in the year for many communities that this was the first time they had fresh meat of that year, which is pretty crazy. At the exact same time as well, this would be near the end of the year would be when the mead or the beer or the wine that they had made through the year had fermented enough to be able to be drank. So you got fresh meat and you got alcohol.
Can you imagine how great that
Time
was?
to party, yeah.
Can you imagine just like starving and starving? You're just waiting for the excitement of Yule because you're just going to have all the meat and all the meat you want. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
You're going to eat mushrooms and get ran over by reindeer.
In a little bit of the warmer areas, like in Rome, they celebrated a holiday around the same time called Saturnalia, and this was celebrating again the winter solstice and celebrating their god Mithra. And they observed this actually on December 25th. Now you take all of these different things that are being celebrated all across Europe and all that stuff, and when early Christianity comes into play, they want to get rid of all those. They want everybody to practice their religion, and they want to get rid of all their stuff, but they want to kind of incorporate everybody easily.
The Borg had a word for this.
Assimilation.
Assimilation.
So, early Christianity, they decided to assimilate. And in early Christianity, there was no feast day for the birth of Jesus. In fact, in the Bible, no date is given of the birth of Jesus. And it wasn't until the 4th century that Pope Julius I actually instituted the feast day on December 25th, again, to assimilate all these other people into still celebrating this around the same time that they did, just celebrate our religion and not yours. It was that.
Do you think we'll ever get another religion in our lifetime?
We did.
That will assimilate all these.
I don't know about assimilate because, you know, the old-timey religions have had hundreds and hundreds of years. But, I mean, if you look at Scientology and the amount of leaps and bounds that has made just in the decades that's been around, think if Scientology's been around for hundreds of years, maybe.
Yeah.
But you have to look at, like, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism has been around for centuries, eons. They have lots of time to grab hold of humanity, you know. Like,
yeah, that's true. It doesn't really happen in a lifetime.
No, it takes a long, long time. By the Middle Ages, Christmas was actually widely celebrated and very similar to Mardi Gras, a drunken, carnival-like atmosphere where everybody would party in the streets, and then they would take a student or a beggar and crown them the Lord of Misrule. And they'd parade them around, and the poor would actually go and knock on the doors of all the rich people and demand their best food. And if they didn't get their best food, they would play tricks on their houses or give them vandalism.
So it's trick or treat.
They basically
It's cabbage night. It's devil's night.
Christmas at that time was a time of year when the upper class could repay either their real or their imagined debt to society by entertaining people with lesser wealth. So it was a good time. Then, fast forward to the 17th century, again with religion, the Puritans took over in England, and they basically banned Christmas. They were like, nope, we don't, because of all the reveling, because of all the debauchery and all that stuff, they were like, nope, no more, we're the Puritans. And then, obviously, coming over to America, many of the early colonies were Puritan-based, so Christmas wasn't celebrated in America for a very long time. In fact, it was banned in Boston until 1681.
Huh, weird.
And, it wasn't actually until the 19th century that America started to embrace and actually change the holiday of Christmas forever. Author Washington Irving wrote the Sketchbook of Geoffrey Cran. And in that story, it told of a squire who invited peasants into his home during Christmas, and everyone got along, which was not the case in reality, but it showed people, this could be a time where everybody can get along and be happy and, have a kind of a Merry Christmas. Around this exact same time, the English author, Charles Dickens, wrote the very famous A Christmas Carol. And in that, obviously, the story's message is the importance of charity and goodwill towards humankind. It struck a very powerful chord with the upper class of the Victorian era of that time. The idea of family was becoming less disciplined and more sensitive during this time as well. It was always looked down upon to spoil your children. But during Christmas time, it was encouraged. So it was a time that parents could actually give gifts, lavish gifts onto their children and not be, ostracized by society for it.
Right, okay.
Which is pretty crazy. Americans continued to shape the holiday into what it is today, including decorating trees, sending holiday cards, gift giving, and even Santa Claus. Now, Santa, his earliest mention is the actual monk, St. Nicholas, in 280 A.D. Many, many stories became legend about this guy. He gave away all his worldly possessions. He helped out all the poor. He was just this really nice monk. And so this legend of St. Nicholas came to be. And Santa basically came into popular culture thanks again to the author, Washington Irving, who called him the patron saint of New York. And at the time, New York was heavily populated by the Dutch community, and the Dutch called him Sinterklaas.
Santa Claus.
which we obviously made into Santa Claus. And Santa shot up into popularity after that, thanks to the Salvation Army. In the late 1800s, around 1890, they started sending out people dressed as Santa Claus to get donations. Also, Clement Clark Moore in the late 1800s wrote "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," one of the most iconic imageries of Santa Claus there is. And Coca-Cola in the 1930s actually used Santa as their spokesman, and he was their spokesman. And to this day,
The real Santa?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, to this day, Santa Claus hawks a lot of Coca-Cola, for sure. Couple fun facts I found. Each year, 30 to 35 million real Christmas trees are sold in the United States alone. There are 21,000 tree growers in the United States, and they let them grow at least 15 years before they are sold.
Wow.
Harkening back to our science segment this week, engineers on the Voyager spacecraft missions did the math and made sure that each Voyager spacecraft would not have any planetary, it wouldn't have any, what is the word I'm looking for? Planetary encounter during the times of Thanksgiving or Christmas. So the people who were working on the missions didn't have to be away from their families. And they made sure that the math was correct, so it would only be like encountering Jupiter any other time than that. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. We build everything around Christmas.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Another thing that's a tradition that has been lost on a lot of people that I want to bring back is it used to be a very big tradition in Christmas to tell scary ghost stories as a family on Christmas Eve.
I guess you get a little bit of that with the Charles Dickens story.
A little bit. Yes,
Yeah.
that is where that stems from, actually.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool to like get back into that tradition and everybody tells their favorite scary ghost story, because we save that for Halloween. Why not do it on Christmas too? I don't know.
Let's just do it all the time. Let's just talk about scary shit wherever we go. That's a great idea.
And we frequently, another misconception out there, we frequently abbreviate Christmas as Xmas, and a lot of people are like, you're taking Christ out of Christmas. That's not actually the case. X is the Greek letter chi, which is actually the abbreviation of the word Christ in Greek.
Yeah.
So we're keeping it.
So
we're
eat
just
it,
abbreviating.
you son of a bitch. Relax.
And I did throw out to our community, again, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fueled by Deathcast, because for some of these segments, I'm going to ask questions of you guys and feature you guys on the show. And one of the questions I asked was, did you have any fun memories of Christmas morning? And I did get some funny ones. Fan of the show, Martha Hernandez, says, I remember one year I was feeling like I was around 10. There was no snow, and it was about 40 degrees below zero with the wind chill. So my brothers and I found our grandparents' Frisbee, got into full snow gear, and attempted to play. You can imagine what full snow gear Frisbee looks like, right? Yeah, it looks pretty sad, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well,
Because those old school snowsuits, too, the ones that you can't move in.
Yeah.
Starfish. Oh, my gosh. Another fun story from Tracy Leach. Tracy says, when my brother and I were little, our cat climbed the Christmas tree, knocking it to the ground and smashing the majority of the ornaments. Lots of glass ornaments. This was the 70s. It was the morning of my parents' annual Christmas party with 30 to 40 people coming over that evening. Dad was already at work. My mother yells, "What was the noise?" In unison, my brother and I respond with nothing. And then now picture an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old sweeping up a mess and attempting to prop the 9-foot tree back up. Needless to say, Mom came downstairs to find my brother and I working the hardest we ever worked in our little lives. And when I think back on it now, it was adorable, but at the time, not so much. Needless to say, we didn't have pets again until we were in college.
wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's pretty crazy. So, do you have a fun Christmas morning story that you or a silly one?
I feel like Christmas was always a time for pranks. And my uncles, my father, my brother were always in on pranks, and I always get like the tiniest gift wrapped in the biggest box tied to a cinder block, So it'd be like, oh, what is this? This is big and awesome and heavy. What is this? And I'd open it up and it'd be like,
a cassette tape.
Or $20 taped to the I remember taped to the inside of the cinder block. But I remember specifically and I've used these before here around the office because I don't know, I guess I was born into it, but those little firecrackers that go off when you pull the strings apart.
Yeah, like party poppers.
Right.
A bunch of confetti comes out.
No
like
confetti, just a loud
pop.
Just a loud bang. And you'd always get gifts that looked like weird contraptions, and you'd pick it up and try to figure out, and then it would explode. And that was Christmas.
That's awesome. The one story I always gravitate towards, and my cousins will never let me live this down either. Either will my mother. We were at Christmas at my grandparents' house, and it was like the end of the night, and my grandparents were all excited to give me this final present that they were really excited for, and they handed it to me, and it was just about a long rectangle of a present, and I was a young kid. I was probably 8 at the time, maybe even a little bit younger, and I looked at it, and I just screamed, "I don't want socks," and I threw it across. I hucked it across the room.
You little bastard.
Made my grandmother sad. My
Yeah.
mom frickin' spanked me and yelled at me and everything.
Good.
Turns out it wasn't socks. It was the most badass ET watch ever, and I wore it forever. It was so cool. It was just like a normal watch, but the face was ET, you know, like on it, and I was such a big ET fan. It was the cool. I felt terrible, and I still feel terrible.
Yeah, I was about
this
to say
day.
you should still feel terrible
Yeah.
about that.
And you know, in the comments, give us some of your favorite Christmas stories as well. Christmas morning, you know, we all have fun stories. We all have some weird, crazy stories, and we're always making new memories. And here on Fuel by Deathcast, I wanted to make a new Christmas morning memory ahead of Christmas morning, right here as a Fueled by Deathcast memory. And I got you a Christmas present.
Stop it. Oh my
This is a
God.
Christmas
It
present
says D-Man on
This
it.
is a Christmas present for D-Man, and it's kind of an inside joke, which we'll explain when he opens it. But he didn't know I was doing this.
Wait, I didn't. That's yeah.
He doesn't have anything for me. We didn't plan this.
You're making me look like a jerk in front of everybody. That's my Christmas present, isn't it? All right, let's see what's in here. Oh my God. Pure Moods.
I got him the Pure Mood CD because for the entire year, if any of you know what this CD is, Dustin will just randomly break into song of most of the songs off this CD. From
I do
like
it right now, but my
95.
throat hurts.
Oh,
I
no,
couldn't
it's
handle
fine.
it.
It's fine. It was one of those CDs back in the mid-'90s where it was like the infomercials, like order now and get all these
yeah.
amazing Enya's on it, and like
Every other song is Enigma.
yeah, Enigma. Yeah, all these songs.
Of course, it opens up with "Return to Innocence."
Return to Innocence. That's the song. In fact, when we went out on our trip to L.A. for a week, when we were stuck in a car with each other forever, we'd be in L.A. traffic, and you would just break into this always. So I found it online.
Merry Christmas, Jeff.
Merry Christmas, D-Man.
Oh, man.
I wanted to get it for you, so now you have it forever.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you play CDs nowadays?
So as this is our Christmas episode, and we will be back obviously next week with a different type of show, but we still will be back. I just want to take the time and wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas out there and a Happy New Year, and hope you have a wonderful and happy holiday season.